Hi, we're back with some more Triad. This is a website that offers a free-to-play against AI on varied rule sets, which is wonderful and helpful and worth trying out. One thing it does I don't like is you cannot pick your hand, and it will give you random cards between levels 1 and level 10, which means sometimes you'll get all level 10s and it'll be trivial, and sometimes you'll get all level 1s and they'll get all level 10s. And it's kind of a joke in the other direction. And in more competitive play, people do randoms on a single given level or a couple nearby levels, so this kind of occurrence can't happen because it's a bit ridiculous. But that said, this is a site where you can play a variety of rule sets. We can see the rule options here. I can turn open on and off. In closed, you'll notice I cannot see the cards in the other person's hand. That's often analogized to poker, while open, where we can see their hand, is analogized to chess. We're going to play open. This won't come into effect till I start a new game. We're going to be learning the same and plus rules, so I will keep those on. Elemental is an abomination. I think we briefly mentioned it last time. It's horrible. We will ignore it. Sudden death is a sort of neat rule set where if you tie, and only if you tie, you start a new game using the same hands, except your hand is whichever 5 cards you controlled at the end of the game. So if they flip 2 of yours and you flip 2 of theirs, you will start the next game with the 3 cards that you had that were unflipped, and the 2 cards of theirs you took, well, they will have taken 2 cards of yours. So keeping your better cards and making sure they're not flipped can become really important. It's an interesting rule set. We will turn it off for now. We will start a new game, and you see we have same and plus on. So we're going to start describing what same and plus are. But first, let's still consider this like we would normally. Remember, A is 10, so their card has a 7 and 10 out facing. And we might think, can we capture either of those numbers, and can they recapture? And we could indeed play this card in 4 and capture their 7, and they would not be able to recapture because there is nothing capable of recapturing a 10, because a 10 is the highest number there is. It cannot be overpowered. But we now have some new rules, and I'd like to explore them. So one question here is, can we set up any sames or pluses? A same is when a card faces 2 other cards and has the same value facing towards both. Normally you need to overpower to capture something, but if you have the same number facing a card you're trying to take, and the same number facing another card. Now these don't have to be all the same numbers. It's not like you need to have a 6 facing a 6 and another 6 facing another 6. Could be you have a 6 facing 6 in one way and a 2 facing a 2 in the other. For instance, if we played Bigs and Wedge in 9, that would set up Kyros to have a same in 8, because it would have a 10 facing a 10 and a 7 facing a 7, and it would flip both or either depending on what's controlled by who. Another way to set it up would be 3, 6, 5, 7 in 9, because that also has a 7 that would set up the same. What's a plus? Well, a plus is when you have a card facing at least 2 opposing cards, and say you have, let's use this as an example. Do we have a good one here? Let's use this card. This card in 8, it has a 3 facing their 10. 10 plus 3 adds up to 13. If it had another number facing an opposing number, or a number on our card, that let that number, those 2 pairs of numbers also add up to 13, we'd have a plus. So 10 plus 3 equals, let's say there's an 8 to the right. 8 plus what? 8 plus 5 equals 13 as well. So if we put Abaddon in 9, it would have a 5 facing left, and there would be an A facing right, and if we could then play an 8 with 1, 8, 8, 3, it would set off a plus. And this is going to sound really confusing. This is hard for people to immediately grasp. The best way to get used to it is simply getting used to it by playing a lot of games. But sames and pluses are a really interesting part of the game. You have to be constantly aware of what numbers are showing, setting up synergies between cards. It also means more captures are available, so safety is harder to come by, and you have to be more careful about it instead of just, oh, I've played a 7, they don't have anything higher than a 7, I never have to worry about this again. Instead, you always have to be rechecking, recalculating. Makes the game more complex and I believe significantly more interesting. Is there anything else interesting we can set up with this hand? Not immediately apparent. So I'm going to try to set up the same in 8. Let's see if they let me play there. They did not. They blocked. And I'm just going to make a couple moves and see if anything interesting is set up. Well, now we have 2 double captures in 5. Can you find both? So the obvious one is 1, 8, 8, 3, and 5. Our 8s overcapture their 5 and 6. But the less obvious one, unless you're familiar with the plus rule, is Kuros in 5, 6, 7, 6a, because 7 plus 5 equals 6 plus 6. So while I believe 1, 8, 8, 3 is by far the better move, it follows the rule of evens. We have 2 very easy to take out facing numbers. I'd like to show you what a plus looks like, so I'm going to make the worst move here and take, with Kuros, a 6 normally won't overpower a 6, but you'll see here it does because of plus. And we flip both cards. And they plussed in return, because they had a 1 facing down against our 6 up, that adds up to 7, and their 5 facing to the right equal to 2 to the left, also 7. Now, do we have a plus? Well, the only square we could have a plus at this point is 4, this square, because it's the only square facing 2 cards. And some people constantly check the math. I like to look at differences. So there's a 7 up and a 10 to the left. That's a difference of 3. To get a plus, we need a card 3 higher facing down than it is to the right. Does that make sense? Because, it's basic algebra. But for instance, a 4 facing down and a 1 facing to the right would be 3 higher down, what we're looking for. And that would, of course, 7 plus 4 equals 1 plus 10. Similarly, 5 and 2, 6 and 3, 7 and 4, 8 and 5, 9 and 6, 10 and 7. And I find that much easier than checking all my cards, does this add up? I instead go, okay, there's a difference of 3, I need a card with a difference of 3. 3 higher down than to the right, I do not have it, I have no double capture. Now, back to just what we play. This card in either of the 2 remaining squares looks tempting. We could play it in 4, and it would capture something, we'd go up 6-4. But their 2 would capture our 1, and we would tie 5-5. So the more tempting move might be 1, 8, 8, 3 here, we'd lead 6-4, and their 5 isn't strong enough to take our 8. But the plus rule's on now. And you can see if I play here, and all moves tie, so this is fine, I'm not giving up any equity here, they respond plus, because 8 and 10, my 8 down and the 10 to the left from their middle card, you can't see it right now, but if I click it, it's going to start a new game, so I don't want to click anything. So there's a 10 facing left from their middle card, that's a difference of 2. They need a card with 2 higher up than it is to the right, and of course 5 is 2 larger than 3, so 5 plus 8 equals 13, equals 3 plus 10. So they got a plus in response. So the game is suddenly going to be filled with pluses and sames. I'm going to let them get first turn, because I think it will make for more interesting examples of this, because we can try to set things up against their starter. Really doesn't want to give me first turn. Really doesn't want to give me first turn. Second turn, sorry. I want them to have first turn. Okay, finally. So this AI likes to play strong corners. And we have the question. Can we set up any sames and pluses against their starter? And can we capture it? Last time we did have a way to capture immediately. This time we do not. They have a 10 facing up, that can't be beat. And they have an 8 facing to the right, and our highest facing left is an 8, so we can't overpower it that way. So can we set up sames and pluses? And this is a pretty bad example because we can't. So I'm going to keep trying to get a better one, because the importance is not... so I should say, because the levels are so varied, there are level 1 cards, there are level 10 cards, so the numbers are all over the place and not similar to each other. It is far rarer to set up sames and pluses on this specific program than it is in normal play. So it's a shame because, as I said, I'd like to give better examples, but the examples here are going to be kind of rare and far and in between, when they're in real play very, very common. This is almost a good example, but I'm going to try for a better one. Okay. Great radio, right? Close. Okay. Let's just use what we've got. So the first question is, can we take it, right? And can they recapture if we do? Now, they're 10 facing up, of course we cannot take, but they're 8 facing to the right, we can. because we have a 9 facing left. And if we took it, they would not be able to take back because they can't take back the 10. Again, this AI is pretty dumb. We could just capture their starter. But we're not interested in that. We're interested in setting up sames and pluses. So we know we can capture from 8, but we cannot capture from 4, the square above their card. So we'd like to set up captures in 4. Do we have any way to do so? And the ways to set up captures in 4 have to be by playing cards in squares that touch 4, so we can set up a same or a plus for a card we then play in 4, right? And we'd be delighted if we set up something in 4 and they blocked 4, because we know we can take their card from 8, and if they've already played in 4, then when we take it from 8, we have secured their card. So let's look, can we set up anything by playing in 1 or playing in 5 that threatens to take their card, their starter, from 4? So pause the video and look and think, do we have any ways to set up? All right, let's look through our cards. So our first card, if it went in 4, it has a 7 facing down, so 10 plus 7 equals 17. It is a 5 facing up and a 5 facing to the right. Either of those would need a 12 to set up a plus. Therefore, there are no 12s in this game. 10 is the highest number. It cannot possibly set up a plus. And this already tells us something. If we're facing a big number, we're going to need a lower number facing it than we have facing either up or to the right to be able to set up a plus. Because if our highest number is facing down, we'll never have high enough numbers facing towards our card in other squares for us to be able to set up that plus. Let's look at our next card. So this does have a low number facing down. 10 plus 4 is 14. So we have a 7 facing to the right. We'd need a 7 facing left to set up 7 plus 7 equals 14. We do not have it. We have a 6 facing up, so we'd need an 8 facing down to set up 6 plus 8 equals 14. We don't have that either, so we cannot set up Shiva. What about Cipher? Cipher has a 10 facing down. That means we could set up sames as well, because our 10 faces a 10. So if any of Cipher's other numbers also face their very same number, then we can set up a same. So can we set up a 6 down from 1? Because a 6 down, 6 is same as 6, 10 is same as 10. Cipher in 4 would be a same. We don't have a 6 down. What about a 9 to the left that we could put in 5, where Cipher would have 9 equals 9 and 10 equals 10? Well, we do have that. We have 6, 7, 4, 9. But we kind of want to hold on to that card because it was our only way to take the card in 7. Now, if we could play here and set up something else, in 8. If we could play this card in 5 and set up something else to take in 8, that would be great. Does it? Well, we have a 4 facing down and they have an 8 facing right. We want to set up for 8. That means we'll need a number 4 higher up than it is to the left. Do we have that? We can quickly check the hand. We do actually. We have a 10 facing up and a 6 facing left. So Shiva in 5 sets up both a same in as 4 and a plus in 8. So we're definitely going to play this move because it is a great example of all the things we're looking for. And we could keep looking, keep checking moves. I should note Cipher in 1 with its 10 down sets up a plus because Imp has a 3 up and a 3 down. And 3 plus 10 equals 3 plus 10. So that would be another way to set up a plus in 4. Are there other ways? Yeah. Cipher in 5 has a 4 to the left. So 10 is 6 greater than 4, so we need a card 6 higher to the right than it is down. And indeed, Bahamut again, the 8 is 6 higher than the 2. So there are a number of ways to set this up, but we're going to go with the cleanest example. In a real game, I would really be looking for a way to use my weakest cards, because I like holding on to the strong cards as long as I can. But I might still come to this move, and it's a really good example of both setting up a same and a plus, because we set up a same in 4 and a plus in 8. And we'll see how they work in a moment. So they blocked 8, so now to secure a card, we could either play in 4 or we could play in 9, right? Because if 9 takes 8, that card's secured. Though in fact, we have nothing that can take their 6 to the left. We used up all our leftward power. This may not have been the greatest move, but it will turn out well, I think. Or we could play in 4, securing the card in 7. We can do that, and we can do that because we set up a same. So here we're going to see it in action. 9 is the same as 9, 10 is the same as 10, and boom, it flips both. All right, they made a very strange move, but it's going to be another great example of pluses and sames. So the only square a plus or a same could possibly happen is 9. Why? because it's the only square that faces two cards, and you need to face two cards to be able to set up a same or a plus. So my question to you, and if it's not obvious to you, you should pause and look, is where can I go, which card can I play in 9 that has a same or a plus and thus flips both cards? Because normally I would not be capable of taking this card in 8, right? It has a 6 to the right, and I have nothing higher than that to the left. But with same and plus on, I can. And the correct card is Jim 47N, because 5 plus 5 is 10, and 4 plus 6 is 10. I'm going to play the move. If the math's not obvious, go back and look at it. And we've got a plus. We flip both. Now, for the final move, we may as well check for sames and pluses again. Here we do not, in fact, have them. So we should check if they have sames or pluses. Now, they have all, basically their card is all 5s, and so they would need to be facing the same numbers. They can't. So I can play anywhere. They will not be able to take something, and we will win 7-3. I cannot possibly take them. Their number's high enough. So we win 7-3. But the key was we set up captures on their starter from both sides. When they blocked one of the sides, we were the first to secure a card by playing in the other. And nice examples of sames and pluses there. Maybe we'll get another nice example here. I'm going to do a quick look on my own and see if we can set anything up. We can, sweet. So they have a 10 facing up and a 10 facing right. Obviously, we cannot overpower 10s. So the question is there a move in 5 that can set us up to have sames or pluses on both sides of their starter? Or is there moves that set us up for one side or the other? Let's look for anything. Just look for as many sames and pluses you can set up from the middle square on trying to set up the squares 4 and 8 as you can. How many can you find? And what's the best move? What's the best setup? So I'll let you think for a moment. We'll just go through each card. So let's start at the bottom. If written 5, it is a 2 facing down. So to be able to have a plus in 8, we would need a card 8 higher up than it is to the left. We almost have that, but it's 7, so it won't add up. What about, does it affect a setup in 4? Well, it has an 8 facing right, and there is a 10 facing up. The difference between those is 2, so we would need a card 2 higher to the right than down. We do not have that either. Let's look at the next card. Here we have a 7 facing left, they have a 10 facing up, that's a difference of 3, so we need 3 higher to the right than we have down. If you just look through our cards, none of our cards have a number 3 higher to the right than the number down. What about in 8? Well, we have a 4 down, and there's a 10 to the right from the card they played, so that's a difference of 6. So we will need a card with a number 6 higher up than it is to the left. We do not have that. Let's move on. Alright, what about Minimog in 5? Well, we have a 9 down, they have a 10 to the right, that's a difference of 1. We will need a card 1 higher up than it is to the left, and we do have that. 9628 Ifrit has a number 1 higher up than to the left, so we would be able to set up a plus in 8. Can we set up a plus in 4 as well with the same move? We have a 2 to the left, they have a 10 up, that's a difference of 8, so we would need a massive 8 points higher going to the right than down. We don't have that, so it only sets up one way. What about Propagator? Well, 8 to the left, we've in fact already checked that. We did not have the difference of 2. 4 down, we've also already checked that. We did not have the difference of 6. This doesn't set up anything. And finally, Imp. So a 6 to the left, 6 is a difference of 4 from 10, so we need a card with 4 higher to the right than it has down. We have that, Ifrit. 6 is 4 higher than 2. What about for 8? Well, we have a 3 facing down, there's a 10 facing to the right. 3 and 10 have a difference of 7, so we'll need a card with 7 higher up than to the left. And we have that too. So we're going to play Imp in 5 because it sets us up to have captures in both squares, 4 and 8, using these same and plus rules. Now, they played Irvine, and we know we have Ifrit in 4 if we want it, or Minimog in 8. But we have those anytime we want them. Irvine has a 10 to the left. They can't beat that. So if we take Irvine, we're going to control Irvine forever. So one tempting thing to do here would just be to capture Irvine. Another tempting thing to do would be to play in 4 or 8 because we will capture their card in 7 forever. But I think here, there's arguments for doing different things here. So one reason I don't want to play Ifrit in 4 is because their top card, Belhamel, they could play in 1. And that would be a plus, right? Because I have a 9 up and there's a 10 to the left from the card in 2. That's a difference of 1. So they would need a card 1 higher down than to the right. And Belhamel, their top card, 3, 4, 5, 3, has that and would flip our card. And they'd have these 2 secure cards in 1 and 4, and I don't want to give them that. Similarly, Minimog in 8, they could play in 7 with, say, 9, 4, 8, 4, and they'd capture and secure Minimog and have this really high up-facing number we can't take. So instead, I'm going to capture Irvine. And I'm going to do so with, guess, this card. Because now Irvine is under control. They're going to take us back. I think that was the correct move. And now we have some choices. And yeah. So we could flip in 4 or 8. I don't want to get too much into calculation here. I'm just trying to really show how same and plus work. I'm going to play this move, and we'll look at last turn. Yeah. So they can take us to go up 6-4, but now we set up this plus a while ago. What's our move? Our move is, of course, Ifrit in 4, because 6 plus 6 equals 2 plus 10. We get a plus. They cannot plus in reply. Let's do one more of these. Been going for 20 minutes. All right. Again, they played a big corner starter. Again, it is a 10 facing one direction and a lower number facing the other. We can just capture it, and they can't capture back, and that's pretty damn good. This AI is... I wish it was a little better, because it just makes strong corners without checking if it can recapture. But again, let's see if we can set up. Can we set up pluses? Here, we can already take from 8, so I'm going to try to set up a plus or a same in 4, usually a plus. Pluses are more common. And can we set it up, say, from 1? And we do have a way to do so. For instance, this card here has an 8 down. 8 is 2 lower than 10, so we would need 2 higher up than down, and indeed, we do have it. So that would be one way to go about it. Let's do that, see if we can set up a plus in 4. They took a plus in 4. But now we're going to be the first person to secure a card. We will secure this one. This game may go poorly. We don't have the double capture in 5, which is a shame. Should be good enough to get a tie. They made a very poor move. Now we win. But it should be noted, we win and get a plus. Because this card here, 6 plus 5 equals 9 plus 2. Now, we would have flipped those cards anyway, so for now, the fact that it pluses doesn't really make a difference, because we'd overpower. But it is worth noting it is a plus. And I really recommend, if you're not familiar with the plus rule, just going and playing a few games here, and say, taking second turn, and they will play a strong corner, and just seeing if you can set up stuff against their corner. So they have a 9 and a 10. Can we set up stuff against their corner? Here. Not really. Alright, so you won't always get good examples. But we'll see if they... Yeah, so they use the plus there. So that would be an example. I was setting up either us or them to get a plus, just giving examples. Can we get a better one? And just each time they have a corner starter, looking at it, seeing, can we set up sames and pluses against it? Can we take it? Here, we cannot take their starter. Can we set up sames and pluses? And the answer is, for instance, this card in 5 sets up sames or pluses in both squares, 4 or 8. So for 4, my idea was this card would give a plus, because 7 is 3 higher than 4, and I have 5 is 3 higher to the right than my 2 is down. So this card here would have been a plus. And of course, for 8, I have either a same, This card here has a 7 facing a 7 and a 10 facing a 10, so it flips both. Or a plus. 6 faces 7, 3 faces 10. I'm actually going to use the stronger card here, just because it's a little harder for them to take, and because I think it will set up another plus. So we get a same, flips both. They didn't do the move I was hoping for. I was really hoping they would play their bottom card in 9, and that would give us another plus. Here, of course, we should be thinking secure cards, right? The same principles as we've talked about continue to apply as rules are added. We want a secure card, so the obvious square to go is 9, because 9 is inherently a secure card on its own, and it secures the card in 8, and we can take the card in 6, and they can't take its 9 from above. So, can't really turn down this move. We now have 4 either secure or safe cards that they can never touch. And for our final move, you get one last plus to close it out. Can you find the plus? I hope so. The only square we could plus is 2. The 6 is 1 lower than the 7, so we're going to need 1 higher left than down. We have a card that does that. Here's a plus. We go up 8-2, and we win 7-3. So I'm going to give a link in the description, and you'll be able to go to this website and try out for yourself. I recommend open, same, and plus. You can also mess about with closed, which we'll get into soon. Same wall is the same as the same rule, except it treats all walls as 10s. So this doesn't come up much, because to same wall, you're going to need a 10 to face the wall to set off the same. Plus wall is a much more important and interesting rule that sadly this website does not have, because the original FF8 did not have it. But plus wall is the same as plus, except all walls are 10s. And that dramatically changes the game, and aside maybe combo and maybe open or closed, is the most important rule, I think, along with plus, I guess. But it's just an incredibly important rule that really changes what's safe and how the game works. And we'll get into that next time. But for now, I think it's really important to just get used to same and plus and get quick at seeing it and quick at seeing possibilities. And I think the best way to do it is to start a game, see them make a starter, and just look, can I set up sames and pluses? You know, they have 10s facing out. Can we set up sames and pluses against their 10s? And oftentimes you can't. Here, for instance, we could play this card in 5, and we would set up a plus in 2, and here they fell for it because they were very bad, but we did not set up a plus in 6, and there just wasn't an available way to do so. But here we do have the plus in 2, and now somehow, despite our really horrendous starting hand, we might have some chance to tie despite way weaker cards. Still looks pretty miserable, but I guess this does eke out a tie. Miraculous, because our hand was terrible. If you go back in the video, they had much stronger cards than we did, and should not have given us the plus we had at the start. But just playing over and over and seeing, okay, what's their starter, and how can I set up sames and pluses, I think is very good practice for finding sames and pluses. Here, we can of course take their 3, and that's of course a good idea, but can we set up sames and pluses against their A? You know, look at some moves. One way to do so is this card here, because there is a difference of 2, and this card is 2 higher to the right than left. Another way would be this card here. You can pause and figure out why. Or this card here also sets stuff up. Or this card here. And you should, you know, pause and think about all the examples you can find. Here's another one. Why are these all sames or pluses? What am I setting up where? And I think that's really good practice, and once you've done it for a while, you get really quick at seeing sames and pluses. It won't be such a pain, and it'll start making sense. Now, what effects on the game does it have? Well, as I said earlier, securing is going to matter more than ever, because safety is suddenly this elusive concept, right? Their 10 cannot be overpowered right now, but that doesn't mean it won't be able to be overpowered sometime down the road. And after we make a move, suddenly that 10 is vulnerable. And suddenly, yeah, they didn't block it, and now I can take that card that formerly appeared safe. And there's lots of situations like this where something that used to be safe no longer is. And we end up winning this game easily, despite the fact that, you know, we initially couldn't take that 10. Of course, we could have taken it from 4 immediately. I'm not saying I played this perfectly, but setting up sames and pluses is critical, and it means that them simply having stronger numbered cards doesn't mean they automatically win, because if you can find synergies, ways for cards to interact, ways to play diagonally from cards to set up the squares between, you can find a lot of tools to do interesting things. So again, I will give a link to the site. You can go to it, set the rules you want. You can turn Same Wall on, it makes very little difference. I'd hold off combo for now. Elemental's pretty boring. Sudden Death is fun. It means if you get ties, you get the same hands but a little different. Maybe mess about with open and closed and see if, closed interests you at all. I am going to start covering closed soon, and I think it is a very fascinating game with lots of different features. But for now, I just think get used to Same and Plus. And you have a nice way to do so with this site. So enjoy. Cheers.